stepping back 1 foot at a time as we step back. Let's take another step back and step back. That is what I think is going to keep happening here. Hello, everyone. The situation is desperate on the Eastern Front. I was advised well into the series that I needed to have at least 500 factories, military factories, and obviously I do not. And I'm not sure how I should have gotten 500. I was told I should have been more ruthless to my occupying powers, very likely, but more of a lack of skill on my part, lack of knowledge. Now, I think I found how we're going to win here. I found the decision. Hit this button and win. I found it. Request Hungarian troops on the Eastern Front. Let's try this. Okay, let's see what this can do for us. I get us a bunch of Hungarian troops on the Eastern Front. Now those are, now if you're wondering what about these things, these are a bunch of just junk templates. And are we desperate enough maybe to cannibalize those units? I'm just looking to see if they turned over a large sum of. Okay, well, let's send all of you attacking Sebastopol. That's not going to work out well. How well? Oh, they're well fortified. Time for some railway artillery, which I don't have any. That's going to be very effective then. Okay, stop. You guys stop attacking. All right. So, okay, we got you guys here. You come down to here. You're almost non-existent. At least fuel isn't our major problem anymore. Yeah, any of you would be being pushed back. Oh, we got Italian reinforcements in there. Yeah, not gonna last very long. Romania, you're trying, I see that. You're trying. An improved cannon, though I don't know if I'm going to take that improvement. Well, let's see what we can do here. Well, we have all of these up to date. One of these magical, get huge amounts of. Oh, okay, this will be production efficiency base plus 10%. This would actually be useful here. Some of these, like, you know, higher level airbase, yeah, that's good. I mean, it's not that it's unhelpful, but it's not going to help us in this situation. I mean, we have so many railways I want to repair. Western Rhineland. Move these to the top to at least get there. So let's take a look at the Western Rhineland, and I did shift out a fair amount of air power to fight over here, and we can see here. Okay, well, current activity it says, but well, Poland here. Let's move you to here and put you up over Western Germany here. That would cover the Western Rhineland at least with some fighters. Well, they're attacking there, so we will join them, because maybe that'll be successful if we do. And they're pushing out up there, though. That maybe is why we shouldn't join them, just because we're exhausting ourselves. These units that have hardly any equipment. Now, for your viewing pleasure, I have been posting, they've been getting fair at best, viewing of a multiplayer game that I played with other members of Team G. Hey, you want to know how to join Team G? Well, Team G is like Team Gamer. We started out as a group of friends who were playing War Thunder, and they had announced the World War mode for War Thunder, which presents... I mean, they're balanced out, so it's not like 100% accurate OOBs. But what it is basically is a strategy game, hex-based strategy game, that you play against another player or players, but it's another squadron. That's why we formed a squadron. That when two units bump into each other, and one could be dug in and one could be advancing, or they could both be moving when they encounter each other, obviously one has to be assaulting the other. If they're both dug in, they wouldn't be fighting each other. One could just be stationary, hadn't yet dug in, and be attacked by another unit, and the units have different strengths. That some of the units, just because there's not enough players out there, some of them are sort of auto-resolved eventually. Many are resolved by getting in and playing War Thunder from like the latest one was Nordwind, which was a German sort of small offensive late in the Ardennes offensive, Battle of the Bulge. That are the historical vehicles that were used in that battle. So only what was used in that battle get to be playing against each other in various ways. We won't go into it any more than that. So it's really fun. And I actually have some videos of our last World War mode battle that I made. And I'm just sort of looking at a good way to, quote unquote, market them, to get them out here so that okay, what we want to do is no, I don't want to halt. I want to disband all of these units because we need the equipment for the front line. So, like I say, it is not a strictly historical in detail, but it is a really cool game, and like I'm trying to market so that people will want to watch the videos and not just think it's mindless tanks battling other tanks that are very unhistorical matchups. So that's how we started, but we also play other games, and that was sort of the basis of the group for our multiplayer that I've been posting that we played. It was 3-on-4, I think, if I remember correctly. Germany, Italy. Well, it's shifted around a bit because some of the players couldn't make all the sessions. And Japan versus Soviet Union, Britain, America, and France. So yeah, 4-on-3. The series is complete, as in that is over, but it hasn't all been released yet. And what I also want to try to figure out how to sell well, is another series that we are currently in the making of, which is called Ministers and Field Marshals, maybe a good title for it, in which it's a co-op game of World Ablaze that I am playing the Fiora, and again, not everyone makes every session, but different people are playing like the idea of the Air Minister or Goring or whatever, and the other naval, and then field marshals commanding different parts of the front. And so I'm sort of managing all these people, and there's been some real drama. Yeah, serious drama, I would say, over that game. So you might want to check that out. That is still, we're getting near in the playing of it. None of the episodes have been released yet, but we've been getting near to playing it in. See, if we have equipment, we might. Well, yeah, I don't know. Might do well. But you're getting near Barbarossa. I think we need to do a little bit of tweaking before that happens. But that hopefully will be a very popular series. We'll see how that goes. Now, I think we can sort of tell that let's let the clock go after. You're okay. That was both basically infantry equipment. Yeah, we're still 75,000, 18,000 down, and we're at negative 300, negative 1,200. Trucks. Where all my trucks evaporated to 2,800 negative on supply equipment, and we're still, So, yeah, I could cannibalize the Air Force, but it's not a resources-based thing. Now, do I do something like try to switch over all of these to military factories? Yeah, we could get, I don't know, 80 some, because we need to keep some civilian factories to deal with trading for the resources and whatnot that we are currently doing here. So we can't give up every last Civ factory at the moment, at least. So I don't see a way out of this at this moment. I honestly don't. And America isn't even in the war yet. I don't know what that would be like. So I don't see a way out or a way forward, really. I'm thinking I'm maybe going to look at Black Ice, see its current state. Yeah, play Germany again, but with Black Ice. I really, quite honestly, I really wanted to get sort of deep into Russia and see how the railway system was working, quite honestly. The idea of having, plenty of, well, I know that's supply, but for the railway, but having plenty of, rifles or whatever back here, meaning here, rifles and artillery, have plenty of that. And I know there is some vague idea of tracing supply lines to the front for and how long it takes to get replacement equipment. I know that is a thing, but how the supply deals with, Stalingrad, just how can we do it? And if it was just simply going, hey, my divisions are out of supply facing Moscow and I have to fall back here. Maybe I need to hold off and build more railway. That would be fun for me. If I, wasn't in this um, situation that I don't know how to get out of. Uh, and since this is the game, we can just go. I'm not like turning the tables over and going, and flipping it over and claiming no, I am a foul or something. No, I'm claiming I lost. This isn't um, you know still want to play, as you can tell. Um, so maybe black ice is a better solution. Now, an evaluation here. I will admit that I may not be playing some of the things correctly, some of the elements that as intended, like exploitation of Poland, you know. And had I done some of these others in a more timely fashion, exploit, and maybe with all of these, 10% down, 5% down, 6%, 6%, um, well, it's just 4%. I don't know if we bother with that. Norway, 4%. Um, Doing some of that we would have gotten, this. Now we are stability is 74%, so we're still rather stable. But yeah, 12% would be nice. We're at a oh no, we're at 100% stability. But it's war support, 47%. Consumer factory goods are 12%, so that would just help on building more. But building more earlier on would have been useful. Now factory output, reduce that down to that's 12% negative here. Construct civilian factory construction speed, which we're not doing right now, 62%. Had I done some of that, and I did do some bonds here, we could do this 10% ease of the situation. But I don't know if I had done this, and I don't mean like do this right now, 1941, but starting in the beginning of 1940, because that's when I started to get most of these territories. France and whatnot. Only Poland really would theoretically be before that, but I sort of delayed that a little bit. I don't think thinking I don't think this mod is giving Germany enough military factories, or giving may not be the right term, but it is definitely a no, I don't know if retcon. I don't think it is, but a reverse engineering of the German economy. This mod does have a decision to give. I think it's like 10,000 Gewehr 98s to the German army, and I don't know how much they were making more than uh, 280 rifles a day and machine guns, and whatever. I mean, they were pumping these things out. Um, and they were making more than, 2 Panzer IVs a day, and you know, I'm pretty sure they were. I don't have those facts and figures all in front of me right now. But there were large amounts of World War I surplus in Germany. Large amounts had been dragged out of Germany after World War I. Large amounts was recollected by Germany. Obviously, not the equipment that was sent to Britain or to America. It used to be in America, in like the 20s and 30s. Um, if you were a town or a city, you could order a German, I don't know, like particularly from what government agency, but you could order a German MG08, the big, quad pod, four-legged pod, machine gun from the government, and they would send you one. Now, it wasn't because of especially after the NFA, National Firearms Act. It wasn't, especially after that. It wasn't like in shooting condition, but they would send you it for local city, for like either making into a war memorial that would stand outside. You paint it gray or something to keep it from rusting, and just plunk it, cement it down. Well, use some bolts and into a cement thing outdoors, or like in a little museum, an internal display in a building. In that it was a non-functional gun, probably without its lock work or whatever, but that it would appear to be like an MG08 as sort of a war trophy, war memorial kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't know how many the U.S. got thousands of them. I don't know what how many they got right offhand, and I don't know how many were given out and whatnot, and how many eventually scrapped. But a lot of these were given out. But a lot were given out to places like Czechoslovakia, to Poland, to Romania, to Yugoslavia, to France, to the Netherlands, to Belgium. Not the Netherlands, sorry, no, but to Belgium. Countries in World War I, in Germany. And Germany was collecting the machine guns, MG08s, all that they could get back. Germany was collecting all of the Gewehr 98s that they could get back because it was in their calibers. And yeah, these were all being given to, the units that I just demobilized, or these types guys, or being put, the MG08s putting into, Atlantic Wall fortifications or similar sorts of things. But they were also using huge amounts of French equipment, Norwegian equipment for the garrison units being stationed there. So I think this game, and sometimes I'm talking about the game and sometimes I'm talking about the mod, and they are related to each other. But taking a Poland and the leftover equipment that you see captured, I think that underestimates the amount of captured equipment that Germany got in World War II. And like I do understand that, you know, light infantry equipment. It isn't that they have 1,000 rifles in this division, is what this is supposed to have. Excuse me. And somebody like Prinz Eugen, which was a division that, for the great bulk of its life until it was sort of falling back, fought in Yugoslavia. It was mostly non-Germans in that fighting in there. So I doubt highly that it had 200 trucks. Maybe it did. I mean, I don't know. It's truck order battle. Yeah, maybe it did. I doubt highly it had any Stugs. Prinz Eugen, you can often see some panzers from Prinz Eugen being photographed alongside uh, Russian white veterans and their children, adult children. There was a large number of white Russians in, that escaped out, tens of thousands escaped out from here, Rostov, spent a while um, rotting on ships, and then eventually Yugoslavia brings them in as a stability factor. It's basically about half end up in Yugoslavia, about half end up in Russia, or not Russia, in France, Paris, but not all in Paris, but in France, around Paris. And Yugoslavia brings them in and gives them homes and farms and pampers them a bit, because they then, of course, support the anti-communist Serbian regime, and often are like put on Croat or other people's areas as a loyal force to the government, if you will, and don't really see much fighting before World War II starts out. With Yugoslavia being taken by the Germans, they themselves start organizing themselves up and want to go fight in the east, and the Germans absolutely refuse. They never let them go to the east. Not until the darkest days. I think mostly it's over a propaganda thing. The Germans did not want to look like they were, I think this is it, look like they were trying to reintroduce the Tsar or some sort of white Russian element. And I also think that they had contempt for their leadership as being old and out of date. But they did fight fairly well. But the tanks you see that are photographed there, that are mostly from Prince Eugen, are all captured French tanks. So Prince Eugen did have it was a mountain unit, but had basically an armored company, or Abteilung, which is just a detachment. But I think mostly with R-35s, but not absolutely sure. So, but I don't think they had Stugs. So I understand that the rifles, give 10,000 rifles, that may be equating to something like 100,000 actual rifles, kind of thing, as it parallel meaning. But I've seen piles and piles, and I know piles and piles is just 5,000 guns, or, rifles or something like that. But I don't think it was a unique occurrence of captured Polish equipment. And fortunately for the Germans, the Poles used a Mauser rifle chambered in their caliber. Most of their other equipment was not had any commonality to German equipment and parts or whatever. Not even that the Mauser rifles that Poland used was swappable in parts, but was basically all swappable in ammunition. So that all gets used, but again, and mostly for like internal security and reserve type units and whatnot. But that does make up for a lot. So yeah, I don't think I don't I think they're too hard economically on Germany. From everything that I've read, everything, documentaries that I watched, I think they're too hard here. if in 1941, and yeah, maybe I effed up just super bad in some of these cases, but if I can't do a few things and at least sort of fulfill, and I don't think, I know this is going on a long time, but I don't think I overbuilt units. You know, 'cause that's the other thing is that if you build, you know, double the units you should have, and then you don't have enough, um, you know, equipment for those units. And another thing with this game is that it consumes equipment too much, in my opinion, because artillery pieces are rarely lost unless your units are completely overrun. So obviously, Stalingrad or Tunisia or any sort of pocketing that happened to Germany, or vice versa, you're losing your artillery, but your artillery pieces um, mostly are not lost. Now, this game was designed with, oh, there's supply. Yeah, there's supply in that supply regional zones, whatever, how much they can supply. Supply, yeah, there's supply in the game, but artillery pieces are manufactured as they are manufactured with a lifetime supply of ammunition. So simply using them in combat uses up artillery pieces because that just uses up the ammunition. And so when we're making 8.5 artillery pieces a day here with this amount of factories, that is equivalent to making 8.5 artillery pieces and a lifetime of ammunition. Now, artillery barrels will wear out. I would love to, I don't not read some big thick book on it, but I would love to read a page or two that's sort of a summary of analysis of how often in World War II, whether it be the Americans or be the Germans, I'm not going to trust anything coming from the Soviet Union, or the British, actually fire a gun so many times that they've got to stop using it because it's no longer the artillery barrel is no longer functional. It's now smoothbore or whatever or something. I know with like reading up on naval guns, they estimate how many times they can be shot, and then you literally have to take that ship back to port, pull the turret. Most of the turrets that you see in the big main turrets on a battleship or cruiser or whatever, they're just in there by gravity. They're not held in there by any other means, and they're normally on ball bearings. So you get a big crane and you just pull them straight out, plop, and set them over to the side. Maybe on a little bracket thing, so because some of the parts are supporting that heavy armored turret, and then you got to pull the guns out. Now maybe you can pull the gun out without pulling the turret out, but I do know that they were pulling the turrets out of some of the, maybe as much just dealing with the aftermath of Pearl Harbor and that the ship sunk, and they were rebuilding it, cleaning it out, rebuilding it. So, but then they pull that gun out of the, it's mounting, and take that barrel out specifically, and basically sort of rebore it and stick in a new sleeve, a new lands and grooves element inside of it, and I think heat up the outer barrel so it expands, shove the thing inside, I think, and then it will contract around it and whatnot. But put that in there and get that in, and so they can reuse the sort of the great bulk of the barrel, but re-sleeve the inner barrel. I don't know how often these guys shot up so much that in real life that they weren't useful anymore. And I'm sure you could do it. And I don't know. They're now some of the naval guns are very big. Shooting them, especially shooting them right after each other, like in a naval battle, or firing on a shore battery or something like that, can really heat those the heat everything up, and then cause things to erode. You shoot it spaced out 4 times a day versus for 100 days versus shoot all those rounds in one day, kind of thing. And out of the same barrel you'll have a lot more wear quickly. So yeah, the right siege, the right thing, I could see them shooting a gun out. If there's a big huge pile of ammunition sitting behind it and they're just firing. But yeah, I don't really, I know we don't make supplies, so these guns, but even a lot of times when you're actually, unless it's and like I do know from watching a really great channel called Sea and Arsenal, which had looked at, and is still finishing up a few things on World War One. That the main big thing is the 1911, just because they're doing it justice. It's a big multi-part thing on 1911, and it's now outside of that, it's really more obscure guns, very obscure guns used in World War One that they get their hands on, small arms. But the French had a whole factory set up somewhere in France, a large factory, that all it did was take damaged French rifles and repair them. Because they would be like, if the rifle was too near an enemy, a shell explosion, doesn't have to be an enemy shell, a shell explosion, they get into the wood, they would get a lot of like razor sharp metal shards in it. So you don't want to use, because even if you think you pull them all out, some point you find one. So they would just replace that gun with a new gun and send that gun back, and someone would take a look at it. Yep, pull all the metal out of it, put it in a new wood stock, send it back. Or if the wood stock got broken, or if it was damaged enough that but they were, through World War One, it damaged at one level, like the divisional armorer would swap out and do replacement and repair. But there was enough going on through the attrition of World War One that they were getting enough rifles back that they set up a significantly sized factory just to recondition French rifles to go back into the army, because that was cheaper than building a new rifle. I hope this meandering thing is of interest. We will see. Just seeing if I can blow this up and get it bigger. Okay, I really can't. I have Carabiner 98K that I think it has a wartime repair on it. It's definitely not all there. I wish I was I can't really see it, but where the could be a duffel cut, but it's not a duffel cut where you normally do it. A duffel cut, for those who don't know, especially things like the 98Ks, those were perfectly legal in the United States. Submachine guns weren't at the time of World War II. But you could put sort of, as long as it wasn't too illegal, you could put whatever you want in your duffel bag. So people like German Lugers, German, pistols brought back from World War II, huge numbers of those. Well, GIs also brought back rifles. Well, rifle was too long to put in your duffel bag. So what they would do is they would disassemble it, take the rifle out, and the wood was still a little too long, so it would go right under where one of the barrel bands were, and just take a saw to that and cut it, which makes it a little bit, if you try to glue it back together, it's a little too close, because you actually take a little material out. But if you sort of do that right, you can then fit all the pieces in your duffel bag, get back to America, one way or another, get that wooden stock maybe glued in there properly. And a good gluing joint can be very, very good. And it's under a barrel band, so you don't see that it's been cut. And so other than the stock has been cut and replaced, it's it looks perfectly fine, and you couldn't tell it from unless you disassemble the firearm. Well, up near it, it's done a nice job, and it looks like a period job like World War II, but I don't know that the actual, and maybe that's what happened to it, but further up there, the wood it's a new piece of wood that's been added, and a new different sort of barrel band thing just sort of added right there, but there's never had a hole drilled there for the cleaning rod to go down. Mine doesn't have a cleaning rod, so I do believe it's either, whether it was done during World War II or after, I'm not absolutely sure, but the age of the work is fairly old and looks fairly well done, but not done right to make the gun correct. So I think it was a world, because I don't think it's not the right, because you have to cut back further to shorten the stock, because it wouldn't shorten the stock enough for where the normal duffel cut would be, because it was just right. It looked like sort of also that's missing up there is sorry, I'm sort of losing the point, is hooked into the stock there, at the very end of it is where the bayonet attaches to it. I have it here, but it's sort of in the gun safe right now. But the bayonet where the bayonet attach is also missing right there, because that attaches into the stock up there, not onto the rifle barrel. And so what I think is that, even though it would sort of be on there, I think something got in there and got broken, with some soldier doing something, and they just got another piece of wood, glued it, put on this other sort of barrel thing, and they never drilled it, never put the bottom part of the attachment where the bayonet goes on. So I think that was like an armorer's fix in World War II. I just think, I don't know whether it happened in World War II or after it. But, things like that would be fixed, again, sort of at the armorer's level, potentially. And so unless you are fleeing the battlefield, running away from the battlefield, you're probably going to carry your small arms with you, unless you're wounded or killed. And then unless you are having to retreat from a battle, a great majority of that equipment is collected and repaired, if need be, reissued. So, and this is sort of the game's problem, especially when it comes to tanks, because they gave me, us, you, what the logic that driving one of these Panzer IIs around long enough would use up enough of manufacturing elements that the replacement parts would be just might as well, eventually cost the same as a new tank. That's their logic. You drive this around over enough miles, literally, because training will do it. You use up this tank, and or you shoot up enough ammunition that you use up the tank. Instead of having factories that make bullets. Well, The logic really falls down, and I can hear you say, well, yeah, okay, gamer, they just, that is that amount of time to build that Panzer II and all that Panzer II ammunition, both machine gun and 20 millimeter ammunition just cost this, as well as spare engine parts, spare transmission parts, and road wheels and track links and whatnot that are going to get weared up. That's just what that is. Okay. But when I send that tank to the front and it gets knocked out from enemy fire, does that mean all those spare tracks, all that spare ammunition sitting back in Berlin or wherever the deep depot is, not the frontline depot, but or that you're carrying, you have a tank and you have 6 trucks behind you with all the ammunition that tank is ever going to shoot in its lifetime and all the extra spare stuff, 6 trucks follow this tank around, and when that tank goes poof, those trucks also get killed by the enemy. Or like I say, the deep storage back in Berlin or wherever, it doesn't matter, of ammunition that they made at the time when they made that Panzer II is all just poof gone. Well, it was serial numbered to tank number 553, and it can only be shot out of tank number 553. You mean you just made a new tank hull? We can put all that. We have a complete collection of spare parts for one whole tank, except for the tank hull. We can't just throw that on there. So that's the ridiculousness of this. So that it could be, or the unit is surrounded, and new tanks get off the production line. Brand new day one. Long barreled Panzer IVs, new, sitting out here. Go, oops! I drive them super deep in. They get surrounded, killed. Oh yeah, it had all of its ammunition and spare parts, and the next one that's coming off the line that's just a new hole can't use those ammunition and spare parts. Please, people, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Is some of the logic to some of this. I get totally the logic of destroyed in combat. So it's a combination of the game logic and all of this that 25 factory units, okay, and maybe each one of these, how many factory units equals a, Alket or Henschel or Porsche or whatever. I don't exactly know. 25 factory units making Panzer IVs, and we're all, and this is fairly well worked up. I know that there are various things that can expand the, like we're researching, expand production efficiency cap, go higher because it's at 80% if it goes to 100. Okay. And 25, and we're getting 2.5. And out of Panzer IIIs, same number, we're getting 3 tanks a day, 25 units. Now, I'm not complaining against the idea of granular things here, and particularly where you notice a lot of granular is the ability that I quite honestly I would love to have with this game, double the number of Civ factories, but half their capacity, so that you can buy just the right amount of whatever. You don't have to overbuy, and trade overbuy something. So here we're using one whole factory. So wouldn't it be nice? And now this would probably, because of general government, we probably would get all for a huge number, but use like a, especially, or if you go even lower, but the fact use like half a factory to get this 3 and half a factory to get the 3 from the Kingdom of Hungary. I would like that. And so if you're looking at this to try to be more granular, throw in more factories. But if we're looking at this as a ratio of military production, so 11 factory units. So 11 factory units. Are you telling me 11 factory units? And we're basically, it's very similar. 64%, 66%. So 11 factory units, and we are producing a Heinkel HE-111 bomber. And I'm so glad with this game in that it's no longer just the rare materials or steel. It's it's rubber or aluminum and whatnot. 11 factory units. We can get functionally one a day. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, I wish there were more ladies watching. I don't know if Tinky watches this. I think she just mostly watches me live. But it's not just the HE-111. It is all of its spare parts and all of its bombs that it's going to use throughout its lifetime are being made. So 11 factory units. Those bombs, I know this doesn't use steel here, but if you use their logic, and I don't know, I presume the bombs are made out of steel. I call it junk steel as in that it's not like high quality armored steel or gun barrel steel or whatever. It's just steel. It's still real steel, but it doesn't probably need a lot of high tech. It could just be iron. I don't know if they just use iron, but you're not using that, and sort of maybe a little too gamely not using steel for these bombers. But all of their bombs that they're going to use for their lifetime are being made and they get one a day for 11 factories. And an HE-111 is a fairly complicated production thing. And if you're just going, and a bomb, it's a fairly complicated manufacturing process. Not super complicated. I'd say it's probably more complicated to make a Mauser rifle with the more machining cuts. But you got to create the bombshell, the fuse, and that. So it's not an uncomplicated thing. That we are making approximately the same number of tanks. Is that right here for Panzer 4Ds? Okay. So 2 a day, okay, so that, 1 a day would be, 11. Yeah, okay. So, and if we're looking at a ratio of production, so an HE-111 is the same amount of production scale as a Panzer IV. But maybe that isn't so wacky. But all the bombs. But then, I don't know that my ratios, of trucks to aircraft to tanks are way out of balance. So it just gets down to this number here, and we just don't have enough. And maybe I just didn't made, because we're getting 65 from our subjects, general government here. Well, we can manage subjects. So so we're getting 65 from Slovakia, Croatia, Danish state, Norway, Czechoslovakia, the general government of Poland, or whatever, and Serbia. Just doesn't seem like enough. But like I say, I very well may have mismanaged this, and we'll see how the war ministers will come out. Outside of the economy and some of the other things I've talked about, I like this mod a lot. I really do. But the economy, Germany did struggle to get enough rifles, but I think for the scale of what we've done, I don't think it should be struggling as bad. All right. So I think this is mostly the swan song for this series. Post below what you think I should play next, and don't come and say your favorite little country, because if I play Finland or if I play Romania, no one's effing going to watch, people. I was playing America. I know and Italy in Hoi 4, nobody was watching. America in Hoi 3, nobody was watching, or very few people. And this has been a very well-watched series, especially for a bounce back from low watching. So it'll probably be Germany, or at least a major nation, if not Germany. And so I do want to play other than Germany too, but more like what mods or whatnot to play next. So yeah, thank you all. And I guess you should also thank Tim, Strongarm, Niagro, Timothy, Sir Toyjet, Gary, Garrett, Marcus, and the Hoffmanator for support over on Patreon. But everyone else, I can just say, lick the like button and post comments. That really helps. Well, see you next time, and there will be more Hearts of Iron.